Welcome everyone, episode number 37 of the Monthly Dev. It's incredible, but we have been doing this for more than 3 years. Absolutely mind-blowing. I've been here for around 2 years as a host, but the event itself is absolutely super happy of what we have been done so far. Let's start at least 2024. I remember it was yesterday. We were celebrating the beginning of the year. Say, at the end of January we will do this monthly dev, and we are already here. So first of all, sound check. Are you all here? And how are you?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Like, that intro is the most hilarious intro I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, shots fired. I work at Microsoft. So I was like, oh no.
I'm sorry. I think we should update some stuff.
Oh
but
no,
this is what we
I
have.
loved
The
it.
song is
It was
so good.
hilarious. I loved it. It was funny. I was like, this is awesome. Everything about it was amazing. I'm sorry.
Nice.
I was over here cracking up.
Yes, Jerome will fix some technical issues and we'll have some problems now. I already know that we'll take some revenge in some ways, so now I'm scared. But yes, so,
I promise to behave.
Let's see. By the way, hi everyone. You can drop hi in the chat. Before we start, I would like to spend maybe just 1 minute to show you what daily dev is, in case you would like to take a look at that. Let me show you really 1 second. So why all these things are happening here. So this is daily dev. You can check it out. You can go on daily.dev. Here we can see the squads. We are opening these sub communities that you can check out. They are really super cool. We have DevOps, Next.js, something cool if you want to have fun. Controversy, I like this. If you like fights and drama. AI, of course. The AI squad is actually the biggest one. It's close to 5,000 people. So only 5,000 people only in this one. So this is absolutely mind-blowing. Maybe I'll share the link later. And that's it. Absolutely free. So you can just go and check it out. And this
so Francesco, what are these actually? Like, are those actual communities where we go in and...
Those are basically sub-communities. We call them squads. And they are basically sub-communities on daily dev. The cool thing is that once you join one of these communities, if you know a bit daily dev, like these are like posts that then they go also on the main feed. So if you join, also if you're interested into joining, just let me know, even the speakers. But once you join them, you can even share something here that you're interested about, and this goes in the daily dev feed. So it's super good, and it's a great way. We have been working very hard. They have been working very hard. The engineers, I'm just here to promote and just do stuff. But this is great. We also, I don't know, the developer advocate at OpenAI, people for Assembly AI, Goose from Google. Very, very amazing people here as moderators, but everyone can join, they can share posts, and so on. Nice. Before I start, I would like to ask the speakers, this is not scripted, like if you know daily dev, if you want to share something about your experience with daily dev. You can also say that you don't know it. I will feel a bit sad, but it's okay. So what about your experience in daily dev? And then we start.
Well, I guess for me, just I had not heard about it. Since I got this opportunity, I've been looking at it, and it's really interesting. It really fills a hole that I've been looking for. So I'll definitely be getting more into it.
I like the extension part is actually a pretty cool one. So I don't know if you mentioned that before or not, but there's the whole extension thing, which if you install it, then it opens up a new tab, and you automatically get all the feed for everything you need, so you don't have to look for it. That is a pretty cool experience.
I know daily dev pretty well. Been a user of it for about 2-3 years now. I have my own squad for my veterans called Vets Who Code Squad. We might rename it Hashflag Squad. I've actually gotten some. I've gone really upvoted and gotten some success because of it. GitHub had me write a engineer career success guide, and it became really upvoted on Daily Dev and turned out to be one of the top stories that GitHub created in 2023. So I have been, it's very weird when you're minding your own business and you open your tab and you see your name in a square. You're like, wait, what did I do? Oh no, I'm not the main character today. Like that's, you get the Twitter fear. They're like, oh, okay, it's something technical. That's a rarity. Cool, whatever. Let's keep moving. So yeah, I've used this quite a bit.
Nice. Thank you so much. This is like honest opinions and feedback. And thank you. I think that now we can jump into today's topic. So I think we can all agree that for 2023 has been the year of AI for development. I think most of us agree. We are at the beginning of 2024. We don't know what will happen in 2024, but I think that what happened, like basically, I think ChatGPT has been released like around 1 year ago. So now it seems maybe more, but not that much, I would say. But that in development, many things can change in one single year. And we are here also to focus on, of course, different topics, but the main goal is we will talk about AI development. So how can AI, of course, we are talking about developers and how they can use it in their code or in the process. So this is what we will talk about. I think we can start now because we have around 1 hour and a half for all the three speakers. So I'm going to kick Liran and Jerome. I'm sorry, and we'll see you later. Bye. Okay, like this. Okay, nice. So now it's me and you, Martin. Martin, welcome. Martin Rojas. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
I tried. The problem is that I remember exactly, and then I forgot what the pronunciation. I'm sorry. And you are a UI architect at PlayOn Sports, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Nice. And so, what will be your presentation about? Try to make a little introduction, and then, of course, we can start.
Right. So my, what I wanted to kind of take into it is that this past year, this past year, really the ChatGPT specifically kicked off a new AI race, but specifically in like generative AI, specific type of AI. So in this kind of talk, I wanted to kind of boil down what it actually takes for you to use it, and at the same time how relatively easy it is to use than using AI before. So it's a it's a bit of a speed run. Yeah.
Okay, so this presentation for me is perfect because I'm about to prepare some presentation that will happen in around 6 months about ChatGPT and API. So I will follow along, and I'll probably have a couple of questions. I'm gonna abuse my powers.
Definitely.
Take a couple of questions, but feel free to drop the questions below because at the end we'll have a Q&A session. Best of luck, Martin, and see you later. Bye.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So, welcome to everybody listening in. This, like I mentioned before, this talk is really about showing you how to use all these new generative AI application, models that are coming through, but it's specifically just to give some specific examples. I focus on the ChatGPT API, but I do want you to keep in mind that what I am talking about covers all these foundational models. The Facebook Llama ones, everything released by now Amazon Bedrock, and in there. So they all follow very similar principles. So to get started, first thing I just wanted to, give a little context to add to it. There's been a lot of talks in there, but AI says a lot at the same time. It says absolutely nothing. It's the new cloud term. When you're talking about cloud or that, you're talking about a whole bunch of different implementation technology. That is the same thing that happens with AI. Right now, the specific one that has been famous, and when people are talking about AI, it's talking about generative AI. It's talking about the GPTs, which are generative. It's a specific type of math that allows for simple training. And when we get into what sets this apart is that your interaction to it before the previous ones is that you are just making a REST call. So if you know how to make a web application, you already know how to use any of these new AI foundational models, which makes it really simple, really accessible. It takes a lot of the hard computer science out of integrating AI into your applications. The As I mentioned before, it's less challenges from a technical point of view. You're not having to find up all the resource model, train your own model, making sure that it's being trained correctly, and validating it. That also a whole bunch of different set of skills that you are kind of offloading and trusting into it. Like I mentioned, very similar to the way of thinking about cloud, where before you had to know how to set up your entire servers, configure servers, do load balancing. Now, for most of the applications, you can just offload that to AWS, to Netlify, to Vercel, to any of those companies, and lets you focus specifically on the part of the application that you are really good at and really built. But that doesn't mean it takes you away from the responsibility and the challenges of actually building a good AI. Just because it's easy to build something doesn't mean it's building something good is still not a challenge. The challenge now becomes in understanding the tool that you're using, understanding the foundational model, and what its limitations are, where it is, and understanding the parts of it, the levers that you're able to pull and push to be able to make sure you get the most out of it for your particular use case. Into that, the concepts that really matter are can essentially be boiled down to three. This isn't, of course, everything. This is just what you need to understand what's going on and how to best. Okay, yeah, sorry. Looked like I went off for a second. As I was saying, it really comes down to tokens are how any of these foundational models think. They only think in that next almost syllable or word broken down. That is how they consume information, and that is how they export it out or generate it at each point. It doesn't think anything further than that. Temperature is just a parameter in the equation when it's generating it. A way to think about it is how random, how creative, how much BS is going to add to your answer in a simple and easy way. So the higher the value, the more creative, the more less perfect answer in dry answer is going to give you. Um, what really makes it interesting is that somehow with the math and the generation, it ends up looking more creative and more humor answer. You're once you get to the 100%, but then you start getting into making up things or making things that don't make sense or are not answering your question. So it is finding for your particular use where that balance is in the experimentation back and forth. And finally, the query, that is the bulk and meat of it. This is what goes into the model for it to process and generate an answer. That in itself is split out into two parts. The system, this is all that, if you've heard the term prompt engineering, this is really all the base information you give it to have the foundational model reply to your specific use case. These are all the where you're telling it what kind of application you're doing, you're giving it examples of good and bad responses, and using that to go in there. And then the user is the part that is interacting, the person using the generative AI, the foundational model, is interacting with. And we'll go through this in an example later to kind of illustrate what all these concepts mean and kind of how they all come together. As we get into that, and if you do want to look more further into exactly a little bit more easy breakdown of how it all kind of works together, this article by Stephen Wolfram, it's easy to read, but at the same time, it goes really into some of the math and really kind of break it down, and it really helps you put a context about when you're using the foundational as what it can and can't do. So I really recommend it as one of the best articles to kind of help you get your mind around any of these foundational models in Gen AI. But going back to the previous, comments about how it's thinking and how it's responding and how temperature comes together, this is sort of a way of thinking when how the press, how it's making a response. It's thinking about that next token, the next word, and it has a whole bunch of different possibilities to add into that next word when it's responding. It's only thinking about that next word. It really is, all these are really just really advanced autofills. But when you do the temperature, when you change the temperature and make it more random, it's going to give you the less perfect answer, the less perfect autofill that it can think of. And as that eventually builds up, you can see, it's amazing how it kind of makes something that's cohesive and understandable at the other end. So you can see here how all of these words would make sense to be the next one, and how much it can kind of change the sentence, as we are trying to make it more readable or less, less kind of computer looking answer. As part of that, one of the things that I did wanted to touch quickly upon, and this is not sure how many of you have come across the Chinese root thought experiment. This was back in the 80s when we were still, computer sciences were still kind of thinking about what an AI is and how to think about it. And as every other thought experiment, it's not perfect, it's not this, but it just really kind of gives you a way of context, and with taking out all the technical details and just thinking about the system as a whole. What it boils down to is, in a room you have somebody that's an English speaker and has no idea about Chinese. Just because it's an entirely different, it's not letters, that's the only reason it's Chinese. It could be Korean, it could be Japanese, essentially a language that the person inside would have no way of understanding themselves. So they're relying entirely on a book of instructions, set of instructions on how to manipulate it. Outside, you have a Chinese speaker that's putting in, something written into the room. The person inside just following the rules into it can modify and create a response, and it coming out. What that comes out is, to the people on the outside, it looks like the person inside, it looks like the room itself was able to understand what they were saying and respond in a way that makes really good sense, essentially passing a Turing test. But in the inside, the person has no semantic understanding of what is happening, doesn't really understand what's happening. It is just applying rules of syntax. And in a way, that is what's happening to a lot of these foundational models in both ways, is that it literally has a whole bunch of rules that it was trained on. And when it puts in something, it is treating them as just syntax and following the rules that were created during training. It pushes those back out. But it has no memory, no understanding. It doesn't really, at a foundational level, doesn't really understand or evolve what's going on. But to us on the outside, it looks like it's a lot more happening. It looks like it understood what we wanted to, and gave us a good answer, and it knew what was going on. In a similar way, as of right now, we have no idea of knowing what those rules are. We've trained it, we create the room, and the in and out comes out really kind of looking great, but we have no idea why it's making the decisions that it is making. And that is something that, if you are using AI for your application, you kind of have to realize that that is what's happening, to make sure you're not relying on it for decision making, or that you are very careful about what you're putting out of it and how that could affect people's lives. We built a lot of applications that affects a lot of people's lives. So, putting your trust into something that has no understanding of what the decisions is making can be a huge risk. And AIs, to a more or lesser degree, are stereotypes generators, right? They find patterns, so it depends on whatever data was being trained on these foundational models. We don't know. We don't even know if the data that they trained on was really all accurate. So we have to kind of take that into account. And that's where things like hallucination, where the responses look great, but they're not actually false. It's just autofilling the best possible response. So something that, if you're working on an AI, in an AI application, you should really kind of consider and realize the implications of what they are. Now, to get into the into some more of the technical details. I didn't want to get too much into a soapbox, but in the code, if you want to do, the QR code has kind of the sample code if you want to follow along, and then at the end we'll should go through kind of an example of using it in that same application, how it's built out. But I'm going to focus on the one kind of thing that makes it unique, is that if you're using any of these foundational models, specifically the ChatGPT AI, all of the technical and hard part of it, the thing that's different from every other application you built, is that you need a REST endpoint middleware that you kind of create and built to talk to the OpenAI servers. That is really all you need to build to add AI in your application. Then you talk to it from your end as you want it to. In this one, I was using just Velkit because it's the closest thing to vanilla JavaScript. And I wrote it out instead of using their package, but now they have a package to make it a little easier, but just wanted to kind of break it out and show you that even without that, it's still at its fundamental level, it is still really simple. Here, I'm just making a JSON and essentially validating that I am getting those to the system prompts we talked about earlier, the system data, the context, which for this application, because I'm having the system context be sent from the front end and change every time, you can do that. But this is something that also, for having less data back and forth, keeping your things, you could just live inside of the REST and inside of your backend server, and it's never exposed to the front end. The only thing that's really needed from the front end is the messages, and that is what the application is asking for, or the responses, that kind of back and forth. One of the things with the API that you have to keep in mind is that it itself has no memory of what you're doing. It every request you're starting from zero, and you are just sending everything all at once, and that kind of goes into the cost. They charge you by the token. So you can send everything. Now, this kind of frees it up into you being able to send, craft an entire conversation and then just send it, start off from from like 10 questions in, and you've crafted that conversation. All of that feeds into how the AI responds, because every time it gets it, it looks through everything, crafts the response, and just autofills the next part of the conversation. And that's kind of what you're thinking. Like at all points is just looking at everything and autofilling the next part of that conversation, what it could be. And it's how you can use that can become really powerful unless you create some very unique and different applications. Now, this is the part specific, a little more specific to the OpenAI. All foundational models have kind of a limit into how big how much data, how many tokens they can process at a time. So sending more than what your particular model, this one was built, when I built this code, it was built for 3.5. 3.5, so that could only take about a little over 4,000, but just to make sure you weren't hitting it up and breaking it, I was just keeping it at 4,000. So I do a check before I send it out, and to make sure I all get the data. So everything that you're sending, the system prompts, the context, and the messages have a limit. All gets added into that, because that is the maximum amount that it can comprehend at one time and use for the answer. This part, and this is something that specifically a ChatGPT API does, something that was up to now really hard for single developers or smaller companies: moderation, being able to clean up abusive languages and all those things. If you are using the OpenAI API, you get to use the moderation API for free. And same thing, you send the user messages, and it'll give you hey, this is clean or this is bad. And also it provides you a little more detail into breaking down the sentiment, if the language was bad in a certain way, and the other things. And then you can make the decision if you want to keep that application. Maybe you're building an application where that doesn't matter, so it's not it's not in there. But at the same time, something that was really gatekept from bigger companies in being able to do this kind of moderation in their applications, it is now almost a freely given that you can include in your applications to make sure you're being covered from being taken, being taken advantage of, or becoming the next viral thing about, oh my God, this AI told me to go kill myself or something like that. So, and then finally, this is literally everything that, the thing that makes it an OpenAI. It's another fetch request, a post request. I am just putting together the model I want to use, all the messages, the system prompts in there, and just an array of messages. Set the temperature, and you can do it as stream true or not. What that means, and I'm sure you've seen if you use OpenAI applications, you get those little, that typewriter effect. That is not like a fancy effect that added. That is literally just at the speed that the foundational model is promoting the answer. Same thing. Those tokens, you're seeing those tokens being responded. The API can stream those responses to you, so it looks like you're not just waiting on a response, or you can wait for the entire thing to do that. Most calls will take 60 seconds, a minute. So it's not something that is instant, depending on how much context you send it. And it is really kind of ease of use things. It'll take the same amount of time whether you let it stream or you just wait for the final response back. So it's how you want to handle that UI. That's really all that's happening. But from that way, you kind of see it that it's all a foundational model is thinking at any one point. It is that bit, that next token, trying to find the best response, and then it goes to the next one. But it is never thinking about the context of the whole thing. And then, just handle the response to be able to send it through to your front end application. And if there's any kind of response, handle it that. Really straightforward, really kind of simple from a technical point of view. There is nothing that if you built a website, if you built an app, you haven't done a million times. And it's same thing. Once you build one endpoint API, because all the difference of each AI, if you want to create 100 different AIs, it is all the same. From a technical point of view, it's all the same. All you're really having to change is the parameters that you're passing through, and it becomes an entirely different AI. That is one of the real advantages that have come from using from all these services, that it suddenly kind of frees you up to experiment a lot and to try to fine tune it, which, as with anything else in computer science, then where the magic and what sets you apart from any of the other hundreds or thousands of applications using the same technology, in this case, is called prompt engineering. I found two good resources that kind of goes into it. That has kind of become an art in itself. It's really a lot of experimentation, and you do have to realize one of the things that's very different from other applications if you're a developer is that things are you're never going to get the exact same response from the same call. You could send the exact same data, and every time you will get a variation on it, and that has to be something you and your company, whatever, has to be okay with. There's a little bit of unpredictability into it, and that's what makes it great, but at the same time it's a risk. So they've added some other features to kind of tamp that down a little bit, but that is sort of what you want AI to be. You want that unpredictability, that uniqueness at every interaction. And through prompt engineering is the best analogy that I have kind of come up with and figure out for all of for this to use is that it's almost like baking a cake, right? You have a list of ingredients, you have a list of things that you're putting in there, you mix them up and you put them in the oven, and when it comes out, it'll look exactly what you wanted or a little different. That doesn't mean that the next time if you put the exact same ingredients, it is going to come out exactly the same. Maybe something, some random thing caused it to change a little to do that. And at the same way, there isn't a methodical way for you to be able to, oh, if I put a little less butter, if I put it in one egg or not, it'll be different. You have an idea of what it's going to do, but it is never 100% one-to-one of like, hey, if this happens, this is the exact same response, which is very different from every other part of computer science or any other programming that we are used to. And now for kind of a demo and kind of hopefully putting all these things together. Sorry. this this playground that I created kind of shows all the different parts that I talked about: your system prompts, your user prompts, the tell the context, the model you're using, and the temperature. Um, for example, if you wanted to use it as a birthday planner, these are all the kind of information or context that you would give it to. It's like, hey, you're this kind of assistant. This is kind of what I want you to do. I want you to reply this way. At the end, kind of put this responses, and then you give it some samples of like, hey, if you were asked a question this way, this is the type of response I'm expecting, and it uses all of that to do that. If you have this request, this is the response. This is what I want. Um, with some links or same thing and a response. So it's almost, you have to think about it as if you were giving this to somebody to read and look at, how would they interact with it, right? In a similar way. So, for example, all of this context is already filled up a little over half the context, the tokens available, right? So this isn't something where we'll be able to have a huge conversation back and forth because your tokens are already in there, and that goes into the cost of how much it is. I can set up the model temperature, and that's how the response will be, and then the model. But then the query that I want to send in this particular case is, hey, I'm planning this, and this is just because it's been tested. So you can even think of this as making it almost a Mad Libs, right? If you figure out the right question to ask, you just kind of fill out the spaces, the blanks, and you can send that. And for the end user, they don't really know that they are having a conversation with a chatbot. So not everything has to be a chatbot. You can create buttons that'll autofill some of those responses that you have tested before and come out with a grayson. So as you can see here, it starts creating a response. It's putting up links, and you may think, oh my God, that looks, those are things in there, but it's making those links up. Didn't give it enough context of saying like, use these products, and that's how you would give it to have specific answers like, oh, for your response, use these items, and add in more context. In here, it just saw that in the sample that I gave it, I put some links that had a party seed in the title, and then from there, it just kind of made up a pattern based on that, how another link would do. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's true or not, it just made those up. And same thing, from one of the prompts that I said I wanted to add that response, it put that in there, but it's not the exact same response. It kind of took the idea of that and created its own version of the response, and that is everything that kind of goes into that prompt engineering part of it, and where you can really make it different. In this case, if I wanted to do a study buddy, same thing. I put in a lot of questions, and then you can just start having a conversation as topic. In this one, I'm relying a lot more on whatever was put in the foundational model. Make study cards, for algebra equations. And then this is the same thing, the exact same backend. I haven't changed anything. I'm just changing the context that I'm sending it. And then you start having a conversation. But same thing. I thought I asked it for something, and then it's like, now it's asking you for the equation. So you can have that. I think that's right. Here you go. So see, there you go. I had to do no programming, nothing on my end to kind of create it, and you saw from the same backend, just by the prompts that I gave it to, how much it's essentially an entirely different application built from the exact same front end code. And that's really where the power of this AI really comes in. Now to get back to this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. These are all kind of my socials. I don't really know which one is the favorite one right now, since the kind of demise of Twitter. So I'm trying them all out to see which one works. And I have at my blog, Next Steps, I do have some of this article, this in PDF and some of the links in there. So please feel free to go and take a look at it, and just some other things as I've learned I kind of put together.
Thank you so much, Martin. That was a really great presentation. I loved the Chinese room. Honestly, I didn't know that analogy, but I think it was a perfect fit. And yes, so we got many good comments here. Of course, if you have any question, you can drop it now. Clear and clever explanation. I have one question, because I saw that in action, like during the demo. But was that something built by you? It was like a template. What was exactly that? Like what you showed?
What I showed, that's the GitHub repository. It was essentially just this is just a kind of a UI that I built for trying to figure out this the prompt engineering, right? Realizing that hey, from a technical isn't there, but with AIs, you really need a harness to be able to test over and over again the kind of responses you get, to figure out that in and out. So I just, instead of doing it all in code, because it all comes down to a JSON file you're sending back and forth. This is just kind of a UI for that JSON files. And it also let it be, when I was working on an application essentially for Party City for doing this, it let a non-developer be able to experiment. So hand it off to a copywriter, right? A person that works a lot better with words than I am, to be able to come up with the text and the engineering and then figure out, and then I could work on the other parts of it. That's what essentially prompt engineering is. It's a writers, people that actually understand it and can mess with the language in that point of view.
Nice. No. Okay, now I got it. So it's basically a GitHub repository. So it's an open source project. So we leave also the link. If you want to share it with me later, I'll share it also in the chat. And yes, so thank you so much, Martin. It was a really great introduction. I'm looking for some ideas, because I also want to build something. If you have any idea, if you want to share something, I don't know, it's something that you think that might be cool, like, I don't know, to build on stage or like to build live. Do you have any idea now?
No, I don't have anything right now. But so one of the things that really kind of in the thinking of that one is that it isn't all has to be a chatbot. You can think about it like you can almost have a pre-made conversation with a lot of fills. So what would normally be built over talking to ChatGPT, sometimes it takes you 3 or 4 queries to really get it to understand what you want. You can just pre-fill those and make those all a single request. And from having someone fill out a form, you can just put those into like almost a Mad Libs, and you get a much consistent response. You can get some really good things. And this essentially, this same kind of prompt engineering is the same thing that works for even visual, like Dolly or what's the other one? The other like visual generators. They're all essentially working on the same principle, right? All these generalized foundation models, they're all working exactly the same. So once you know how to use that and understanding how they kind of think from playing around with it, it really opens you up to a lot of different possibilities. Yeah. Midjourney. Yes, that's something in the comments.
Midjourney. Yes, I was about to say that. Yes. One super quick last question is like, I saw you tried Svelte. Did you find any, let's say, I don't know, some bottlenecks or something, I don't know, some cool technology that worked particularly well, or is just, I think it's just an API at the end? Or did you find something like good integrations or good, maybe, I don't know.
No, good integration. One thing I did learn, and I did learn because I did get an opportunity to talk to some of the engineers in Vercel, because that was deployed in Vercel, and I haven't put this into the code, but one of the things, if you're doing this kind of AI serverless, because there's such a length of time between waiting for the response and that sort of thing, with serverless applications, just your normal functions, you're paying for every millisecond, right? It turns out that in Vercel, and I don't know if this essentially goes into in there, if you make them edge functions, you don't get charged. The waiting time for the response, you don't get charged for that. So it can be as long as you want, and there is no kind of max limit because it's just listening and passing on that through. So the way you want to create these things is using edge functions to do that, and that's how it's serverless. So if you use their Vercels, they have a specific package that takes all of this kind of backend thing. It's almost just a pre-made npm package. That's how they seem to be doing it. So
that was a great one, Marty. I think I just saved some money, so thank you. I'll send them over to you. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you. I love being able to present.
Perfect. Nice. So I think this is the perfect hook. I want to remove this and I want to invite Jerome, because this was not intentional, but I heard by Jerome that say that this is covered actually in his talk. So perfect hook. I can even just retire now because the two presentations are already linked. So thank you so much, Martin. If you can stay until the end, we'll give you another shout out. And thank you. Okay. Nice.
Of course. And here, I'll put in the link for the repo so that people can go look at it.
Yes, please. Thank you. Nice. Okay, so this was basically the perfect hook. Not even like in the TV shows, they link them so well. So, Jerome, you are a geek at arms of That's Who Code, right?
Yes, that's true. I wear many hats. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft, the geek at arms at Vetsu Code. I've helped over 300 veterans and military spouses get jobs in software engineering, train them from the ground up. And software engineering using the JavaScript ecosystem, totaling, I think we're at $21 million in salaries. And I am a CTO of MyRuck, and we just got accepted to a new seed funding investor group, and we're starting our A funding round soon. So I am busy. I also have 4 boys and 3 dogs, so I am.
It seems that you maybe you don't know what does it mean getting bored, probably.
Oh no, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Nice. Amazing. Thank you. So tell me more about your presentation. You can even start sharing your screen because I want to know a bit more before we start. Thank you.
Want me to share my screen now or stand by for that?
You can start sharing and then I'll put it on the screen soon. Nice.
All right. Cool beans. All right. So my talk, presentation is going to be professional AI for JavaScript devs and practical integration strategies. What this is going to go over is this is a very condensed talk from what I've done I have an 8-hour workshop based on this where there's a lot of live coding and code examples and things like this, but I've had to condense this for about 10 to 12 minutes. I don't
know if this is possible. If you want, I can propose you something. We do your presentation, then we invite the run, then we'll get you back here. I just go to sleep and then we can leave you here. I'll leave you the channel here.
I have 8,000 other things to do, so that'll be another time, another day. But what we're going to go through is we're going to, go through some of the strategies of building AI and the concept of keeping it practical, right? I want to ensure that our users, that our colleagues, our community members are doing things in a manner to help bring business value and skill value. Business value to their companies, skill value to themselves, right? So that is my goal.
Perfect. Best of luck. Again, I am about to prepare more AI presentations during this year, so this will be super useful also for me. I already have 2-3 questions, especially with the Vercel SDK. Let's see. I want to try to give you as many minutes as possible. Bye. See you in 25-30 minutes. Bye.
All right. Cool beans. Thank you. All right. So, like I said, my talk is professional AI for JavaScript devs, practical integration and strategies. Hey everybody, I'm Jerome. I am a software engineer at Microsoft. I am the leader of Vetsu Code, and I'm a CT at MyRuck. I'm also a LinkedIn top voice in teaching. I instructed both front-end masters and LinkedIn learning. I am busy. So I've been around tech for about almost 10, 11 years, and I don't plan on stopping. For full disclosure, for this talk, I am a U.S. military combat veteran, so I speak in some acronyms. But for the sake of this talk, I will try to minimize both of those. So, well, let's go ahead and dive into the evolution of AI for modern web development. It's really evolved from basic task automation to either, if you're using like the VO from Vercel, complex UI, UX design, predictive analytics when it comes to the best features here that we are going to use, code completion, chat completion, becoming the virtual assistants, things of those cases. In this talk, we're going to cover 4 critical areas. So practical integration techniques, real-world use cases, performance optimization, and security and ethical consideration. So let's go ahead and jump into practical integration techniques. For me, from my experience at Microsoft, I get the opportunity to work with Fortune 50 companies that are now trying to integrate software, these tools in there, and I also have integrated with our work at Vetsu Code. So the 2 that I like the most when it comes to a programmer trying to learn these technologies is the Vercel AI SDK and the OpenAI Node module. They're both lighter than, hopefully they don't get mad at me, but they're both lighter than the Azure OpenAI tooling. It's a great tool, but unless you're having a team and an enterprise app, I don't recommend it. OpenAI, small, is friendly, is something that a small company or a single user can implement within a single sprint. And the Vercel AI SDK is my favorite tool out there right now currently. I'm a huge Vercel fan and fanboy. I use Next.js exclusively for projects that I built. So Next.js, Vercel, the Vercel AI SDK, I'm a huge fan of that. Here is an example of code to use for what I did both my examples in are for chatbots. Chatbots are like drugs in the 80s. Everybody wants one. No one probably needs one, but you can't tell people not to do it anyway. So what I did is I first started with this SDK of Vercel, where we're importing OpenAI and using the stream responses. You're calling your API key. You're using Edge for your runtime. You're exporting your async function, and you're using your model, declaring your model, which is ChatGPT 4, and you're utilizing the stream to give it a more dynamic chat experience, so that way it feels like it's in real time to the user, right? So this has been one of the these have been one of my favorite experiences that we've been able to implement with users across the tech base. And I really think that, with Vercel SDK, you can use 30, 40 lines of code to get the basics out. Now, when you want to make this more, future proof, this code comes out to about my final code base with this project came out to about more than 120 lines of code. But that's, you're thinking of the erroring, you're verifying if the API is working. You're doing all the components of ensuring that this is, meeting your engineering excellence protocols. Another example I have is another chatbot, but this time I'm using the OpenAI SDK, npm install OpenAI. This app clearly taps into OpenAI's power directly from the SDK. It's very fun. I had a little, this actually created, this code right here, created this script that you're seeing right now about how it clearly taps into OpenAI's power directly through its official SDK. When a chat message comes in, it swiftly turns it off to OpenAI's API. Then, like a tech-savvy magician, it pulls out an AI-crafted response from ChatGPT 3 and delivers it back. It's like having a direct line to OpenAI's brain. Flatter yourself much, OpenAI, but this was very funny to have the chatbot be this, exciting about it. So as you see, it has a couple more lines of code. Then you'll use the Vercel SDK, which is why I prefer the Vercel SDK, simply because the less code, better. The more verbose I can make it, the faster I get in production. So I'm a huge fan of that. I definitely think you should check it out, and you can use more than just OpenAI with the Vercel SDK as well. Here's another one. If you have been, if you've used any application in the past year and a half, you have seen AI assistants within your chat box that will, manipulate your text, right? Like that is one of the first features, the easiest low-hanging fruit that you can have in, say, a any social media application, such as LinkedIn has a AI assistant. Your Buffer app also has one that helps you with your text manipulation. So this script that asks ChatGPT for a space story, then counts words, and assistant capitalize each word. The same way with, if you use Buffer, you can type in for my personal experience, what I do, I use a transcribe app. I say what I'm thinking and throw the word soup into Buffer, and it makes it come out into a coherent thought that I can post on LinkedIn without making people look like, oh, okay, that guy's a little country, a little hillbilly. What is going on here? So that is this is a prime example of very low-hanging fruit that you can use. We always want to recommend things of ensuring, if you look at that with the create completion, we're declaring the model. The text DaVinci is a very small, older model. Max tokens 50. 50 has always been a good practice point for most versions of when it comes to coding and chat completion. 50 max tokens. You don't want to break the bank doing anything when it comes to AI. That's going to be in the next 2 years, by the way. One of the biggest parts of the industry is trying to make AI more affordable or more safe. That is what companies are going to be paying for. So start learning about how to make your AI applications more affordable now, and you'll be future-proofing your career for 2026, 2027. All right, now I'm going to jump into some fun stuff, which is real world use cases that I've been able to see and build and experiment with in the real live IRL and out here in the community in these streets. 3 real world use cases I want you to all think to what we're going to cover is luxury product assistance, the interactive educational content, and customer impact analysis. So you would be surprised, but one of the biggest users of AI that's coming into the forefront is luxury services. Luxury applications is becoming a billion-dollar industry, and the luxury products, they're already implementing artificial intelligence to create a more seamless, smoother experience with their users, with their customers. One great example I'm going to be using twice is the company Chanel. They're using AI for their luxury product assistant, leveraging MLP and their users' data to create a seamless luxury shopping experience to where the user can, where they're upselling things that the user may, based upon the data, may need to buy around this time. Also integrating it with where they usually go to the most of the time, and turn around and showcase, hey, your favorite person is working at this place at this time. You should probably come in, talk to this person, and see what new things we have. They're creating this experience by looking at the data that the users are giving Chanel. What are they looking at? What have they spent money on their account? Because most people that are going to shop at a store like this is going to have an account, so they can be tracked. who have they shopped with the most? What is the normal time based upon a product they buy? Does it run out in the makeup section? What is their favorite color that they tend to look at, or that they have bought? What's the size purse that they've bought? Say a size scarf, earrings. Do you like the hoops? Do you like the hanging ones? Do you like little seed brooches? Things like that. They are looking at that data and they are using it to personalize your experience from the moment the email hits your inbox, or the moment you get a push notification from your app, to the minute you step to the store. It's really eye-opening how Chanel has really stepped up its game with AI, as well as how luxury brands in general have made the shift from AR to artificial intelligence. It's super cool that just 2 years ago, most luxury applications were doing more AR focused work, and now they are focusing a lot more on that, artificial intelligence enhancing their experience. I definitely, there are white papers around usually in my workshop. We have those white papers. We'll talk about them at length. I think that you should definitely look up those white papers and just read about, especially how Chanel is, doing that work. Interactive educational content goes a lot deeper than that. This is my favorite thing that I'm seeing in the market in AI in real use cases right now. It's literally my favorite thing because I love education. The idea of self-taught education and training is, it is my jam. It's transforming education in places like Harvard, Yale, and Dartmouth. They're offering personalized learning paths, adaptive testing, interactive tutoring. They are now supplementing their tutoring programs at both Harvard and Yale with forms of ChatGPT for their students. It's a very cool concept. I have started seeing private schools partnering with Khan Academy to not only use AI to make better, more future-proof curriculums, but they are also using it to be able to empower both students and teachers to make more engaging and tailored resources for them. I'm hoping that it goes down to more public formats for people when it comes to education, and also the mobile first countries, things like this, because we're seeing it already impact the more higher education privatized education environments, and they are running headfirst versus what we're seeing in a lot of these lower, more public environments where they are trying to cut off or shut down the use of artificial intelligence. It's a very weird time for sure. I highly recommend that if you are learning how to code or learn a new language, first thing you need to go is grab your favorite AI tool. I won't say if you're a ChatGPT fan or not. I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT and Copilot. So I definitely recommend, if you're learning how to code something, go ahead and grab your AI tool and learn how to code with it. So that way you can learn, the holes in your game faster. And third use case, customer impact analysis. I actually, because I don't know if you all can still see my camera, but I'll pull it up. See me on camera. I have a Chanel snow globe right here. And the customer impact analysis of this was amazing, in which my wife, she's a huge fan of the store, and they use customer impact analysis to locate customers that are high consumer impact, and they understand to understand their needs and to give them specialized gifts. About 10,000 of these were given. She's the only person I know that got one of these fancy snow globes about Chanel, and that let me know that, I should probably start checking my credit card bill because wifey is wilding. So, but I absolutely loved how they did that. I deep dived and read more about it. It was very cool how they use this to build lasting brand loyalty for their users. And, a little surprise shows up at your door that you put on Instagram and no one else has. And they're like, how did you get that? And they're like, I got it for free. Well, I kind of for free, considering how much of a fan and stuff she is. That to me is a very, very new way of how we are going to be using AI to engage with our customers in the future. And I definitely, if you're particularly in a component industry where you're looking at personalized service and building lasting brand loyalty with your customers, definitely think you should definitely consider using customer impact analysis as a part of your repertoire of integrating with your applications. I think that is a very real world tactic that you can use. That's also low hanging fruit. It's a big, it's a little bit of a push for your Python team, or you can do it in TypeScript as well. But I think this is something that is definitely going to be impactful in the years to come. All right, performance optimization. We're covering 3 biggies: efficient asynchronous operations. I think we all know what that is, because for JavaScript, TypeScript devs, computational load management, and optimize AI model selection. Starting with efficient asynchronous operations. We all know about how to use async tasks and promises to keep app responsive while the AI works in the background. We know that this helps maintain a smooth experience, but also helps maintain an affordable experience by keeping the AI the AI things that need to work in the background, and that stuff that needs to work in the foreground or in front of the user on the front end there. We're keeping it a smooth experience, nice, fast, and once again, affordable. That is going to be something that I want to make sure you all are thinking about when you're building your applications, because that is a thing when we're seeing come up already in conversation when it comes to people that are using AI for software engineering or implementing it. They want to know how much money are you going to cost them. Computational load management, keeping that app running smoothly by dividing that, as I said before, the heavy AI lifting between server, user's device, right? So that the tougher task to the server and cloud, so that the app can stay quick and responsive, no lagging, no freezing, no bricking their phones, like this is the 90s. Those are the things that when we're thinking about the computational load management that we want you to keep thinking about, keeping the heavy lifting where the heavy lifting should be, not trying to push that to the user's machine, user's device. This is where a lot of the people who come from cloud backgrounds with artificial intelligence are starting to see a lot of growth in their careers. It's helping those cloud engineers learn AI faster, while also becoming more integral to the revenue line, because as software engineers, that's what we think about when we're building things. How can we have positive impact on the revenue line of the businesses that we're in, while also doing enjoyable work, right? So that is this is one of the things that you should think about if you have experience with AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. Vercel, not so much. Vercel does a really good job when it comes to their load management without you, the user, having to think about it. That's why I'm a big fan of it. Like I said, I am a Vercel fanboy. I don't want to be, a spokesperson for the brand, but not only a supporter, but I am a client. So I definitely use their services, and I absolutely love it. Highly recommend. And optimize AI model selection. Particularly now, you may not need ChatGPT 4, especially with the SLMs, these small language models that are coming out they can, like 5.2, they can do almost to the same level level of expertise and speed what the largest Google Bard models can do. I think now is a great time that before you build a thing, for you to look at the models you're using and see how big that model has to be for you to use it. Especially with the simpler models, simpler tools, it helps speed up your app, create extra computational performance without giving you that baggage, or also making you have to implement more guardrails, more work on temperature management, things of that nature. All right, we are getting closer to buy-in. So this one is for what we're going to start to talk here about security and ethical considerations. The big three that we're going to be covering is PII protection, human in the loop protocols, and AI guardrails. PII protection. Now, this is a very important thing because everybody remembers this is going to be the next level of the Nigerian prince problem that we have on the internet with people, sending things they shouldn't send on the web, passwords, credit card numbers, etc. Your grandma, great aunt, or uncle who doesn't know how to use computers well is going to be putting their information they don't need to be putting in chatbots. So we have to implement strict data handling policies and encryption techniques to safeguard the information, as well as strip it the minute they do it, right? We don't want situations where someone implements a credit card number in a chatbot or in a UI, for instance, that's not supposed to be there, and we just our AI just repeats that number, and then somebody's walking by, or someone's behind them, take a picture, memorize the number, or if they're using a public computer like at a library or something, it doesn't stay on that machine. So we have to create those protocols that, as a user is implementing information, if we have the UI detect for PII protection, and if that is that keyword, those keywords or key numbers are probable to be PIIs, social security card numbers, physical addresses, things that credit cards. We go ahead and strip that data and make sure that data is, nuked the minute they do it. And we also warn the user. We have to use that as an opportunity to educate the user. Hey, you don't want to do this. We'll send you to another form that's more secure to be able to do this, right? That is something that we have to focus on in this day and age. Human in loop protocols, especially with everybody wanting a chatbot. This is the most important thing with your virtual assistants and the tools that you're going to be building. We need to have a human in all our AI's decisions, or at least available. Think about it as being on call for when your app goes down. There needs to be on-call protocols where when something happens, when your AI application, AI chatbot, things of that nature, comes up with a problem that needs to be escalated. Another great example of this is using keywords to identify if there is a threat of harm or a threat of self-harm or harm to others. Reminds me of a story on which somebody placed an order with a pizza company, and they put in the comments that, hey, they were being kidnapped, we need help, and that company was able to send cops to that location and save those people. Well, we're seeing situations now in real time within the last year of people going to bots and talking about, committing terms such as self-harm, and the bots are like, how can I help you with that? And you don't want your bot to say that. That is something that puts your company in a lot of hot water, while also put you in a situation where you may not be helping someone who is in distress. So we have to keep the human in the loop protocols there, so we can make sure not only bias and ethics are followed, but that we have enhanced safety protocols for this. And AI guardrails. Now, the guardrails are for the bad actors on the web. I don't know if you all have been following a lot of the jailbreaking protocols that are going on. Some people they have jailbroken OpenAI a few times. People have jailbroken Stability. There's a very big movement to see what can be broken and how to do that. And not only that, there's a very big movement of seeing how can we get people's AI tools to do the thing that they're not supposed to do. So you have to set up not only human in loop, you have to set up strong rules and watchful paradigms that make sure that things are, not only fair, ethically sound, keeps biases in check, but also is good for the company. The worst thing you want is, you work in your chat bot for Burger King recommends to make chicken from McDonald's because the person asked for it, and it gives your user all of the information that they need to go to how to get a chicken, where to order it from, or what's the closest McDonald's if they want to drive, etc. Like that. Well, now you're paying for your competition to have a new customer, right? So that's what guardrails do, while also making sure like certain things like your people have been trying to jailbreak AI bots of Fortune 500 companies and trying to make them racist. You don't want that. That's where these guardrails are there for. You want to create protocols to where, hey, if this particular word is mentioned, or this particular pseudonym of this word is mentioned, and that, which is where you get AI, get your safety and content moderation experts involved. This particular type of like kind of being a bad word is implemented. What you want the AI to send warnings, but also flag that user, send that data to someone that can also track and flag it, because that is how you're trying to maintain safety protocols on your tools. This is very important because we are seeing in over the past year a lot more attempts, and we're no longer in the space of having bad actors or having bad actor nations, right? So you have to think, especially if you're working in an enterprise company, how to protect your users and protect the company, and from bias, from things that may be against company culture, and money, right? So those are your biggest concerns. Okay, so that was a quick rundown. Like I said, I thought this was gonna be like 10-20 minutes thing, so a 10 to 12 minute thing, because it was gonna be 3 users. So I wanted to make sure this was a quick and easy conversation for us, and I had enough time for questions at the end. So we have delved into AI with web development, discussing integration methods, real world applications, performance, and security ethics. Thank you for coming on and talking to me. And I am opening the floor for any questions, and don't hesitate to ask. But before I go and start sharing my screen, you can connect with me on X, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you always go to Vector Code. It's a true labor of love. Help me help more veterans and military spouses. My goal is I am now leveraging AI to help start being able to help 2,500 veterans and military spouses a year. I'm very excited with that number, and I hope you join me on this journey.
Thank you so much, Shahram. I tried my best. So while you were speaking now, I'm dropping the Vetso code /donate. And so for lazy people, now just one click away. We have also the link on the in the description for Shahram. We have one question, so let's just jump straight into that. In terms of application of AI, what other tools or resources would you recommend to look at? I think it's all resources.
I'm very, I don't want to be being the I don't want to sound like a spokesperson, but OpenAI really is on the ball with some of these things. That OpenAI cookbook, I'm really digging. They have a great resource out there. The gentleman before, he covered deep learning AI. That is a banger of a resource. Very good. Highly recommend. I've used it myself. LinkedIn Learning is really leading from the front, putting in a lot of AI courses, from small prompt engineering ones to deeper diving. There are people like Denise, he's out there, or he's he's so smart, and he's doing a lot of AI tools. DEN, I think it's SYS is his name. He's a monster when it comes to building AI resources and education, and he makes it so clear and precise that makes it so a 7-year-old can do it. He's very good. He's very, very good. I think there's nothing else that really comes to my mind in 2015. Denise, Deep Learning AI, LinkedIn Learning, and the OpenAI Cookbook.
Nice, thanks. So I like that you tried basically to compress, but I could feel like how much heavy was this.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, like
but
I want to make sure that
it's
I'm doing enough for
yeah,
everybody while
it's
not taking up too much space.
yeah. It's like going to a wedding party and you can just taste a couple of things. I don't know. It feels like not enough, but I don't know if these sort of things are still available, or you will redo this in the future. But you really got.
I have a full 8-hour course up and running that I can implement. I call it a workshop, but I can also do it as a course. I'm just waiting for the right time that I can implement this and push this as where I can actually spend 8 hours and talking and walking around and helping people debug things, and keeping them from spending too much money on OpenAI, because that's as I said in my talk, my two biggest by 2027. We are seeing projections where people who are software engineers that have a stronger understanding of the cost analysis with AI, same with cloud engineers who are experts in cost analysis with cloud. That's going to be a new component of the industry, as well as AI safety. Those people who are thinking about the content moderation and bad actors. Both of those are going to be coming up, and it's going to be those are going to be two very hot industries the next 2 to 3 years.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jerome. So we are a bit short of time, so I think we have to invite Liran now. If you can stay until the end, you can also have maybe the time to just say bye. And thank you so much for your presentation. Bye.
Will do.
Thank you. Liran, sorry for making you wait, but I know that you are patient, and so of course, last but not least, there we go, Liran. We met almost 1 year ago. Yes, no, more than 1 year.
I think more. Yeah,
actually more, because it was November. Yes. Wow. So Liran is a developer advocate at Sneak, right? And so you've been there, I think, for a while. I think I don't know how many years. For how many years?
5 years now.
Oh, in 5 years in tech, it's like, I don't know, super stable. Like I've been in daily.dev for more than 2 years. Like it's very stable, I consider.
It's a very long time, but thankfully it's the cybersecurity space, especially for developers, is very is very interesting. There's like new stuff happening all the time, so it's always fun.
As I said, usually we don't get bored. So yes, I would like just to jump straight into the presentation. So if you can read this, your brain is quickly adapting to this font. So can machines dream of secure code or not? To know the answer, you need to stay and to listen to this. Remember to drop your questions. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. Liran, best of luck. I'll leave you a couple more minutes so you have the time to do your presentation. Okay?
Sounds good.
Bye.
Hey everyone, so thanks for tuning in and staying a bit longer here for the rest of the talks. I'll try to pace myself as we go through it, but definitely feel free to add some comments or questions on the talk or prior talks, which were also pretty great. We'll get to them at the end. So I'll skip the whole intro things, just so we can make it very quick, but I'll just give you the gist. I do a lot of security stuff, JavaScript, Node.js, and open source. So if you have any questions on any of those, definitely leave a comment and let's connect over Twitter or whatever that is, and I'll go ahead and start the rest of the slide. So I guess this is kind of like I'm kind of like wondering how many of you are actually connecting to this stake that I've kind of like added here, where your vulnerable line of code is going to be a first security regret, because potentially that is when things kind of get go sour, get bad. Here's one example of it. Maybe you've exported an admin function for this Express web application, like a very stock middleware, and you're trying to find a user with a password as it seems. This is, by the way, not a classic SQL injection, which is, I hope that that's like the obvious things you're thinking of. If you know what's going on here as well, like, feel free to go interactive and leave some comments in the chat. I'll monitor and we can discuss those. But essentially, this is a MongoDB kind of like a query here that's being done. And a classic SQL injection with trying to concatenate strings, at a single quote and terminate it and all those things wouldn't really work here. Instead, you kind of have to know maybe what's happening behind the scenes. And so you've kind of located what's wrong here. It's not just the SQL injection here at all. It's also the fact, you might have noted there's no sanitization, or maybe it happens before in some way through like another middleware. Hopefully, we're not comparing plain text passwords like that with a database. But if we did, there's still another issue here. And so, make the story short, there's a specific NoSQL injection that happens here. That's like a very popular code snippet that shows you how easy it is to get things wrong. So like, do not do anything like that, because if the actual input you're getting is not a string, but like an object type for the username or for the password, that could actually end up being a very bad thing for you if you're running MongoDB. So it kind of seems very obvious when we talk about it, but I'll give you an example with Rocket, which is a very popular open source project, and available on GitHub. And you can see the amount of stars it has. It's very popular. It's commercialized and monetized, which is great. But you're seeing it also has, it suffered from the exact same vulnerability. Being out in the open, there could be many eyes on it. There's like a very famous saying, with many eyes, a lot of eyeballs make bugs shallow. But it took some time to find this, and this actually ended up in a NoSQL injection that is without authentication at all happening here. And so, kind of like telling you, kind of like starting to feel that writing code, or the whole premise of security vulnerabilities in your code, not just in dependencies, is not as easy as it seems, right? Like if it happens for this very popular project, many times was probably that code was looked at, but still missed until someone pointed out. So of course, like no sweat. Let's just do secure coding. Let's just practice this. It's like makes sense, of course. Let's write very performant apps and accessible apps and all testable apps and maintainable apps. Well, we wish it was that easy. And so I actually want to say and go back to that premise I've had before of like, your vulnerable line of code is your first security regret, which is it's actually not just your code anymore, right? Like you're feeling, what's coming up, right? Like you're going, going to maybe Stack Overflow and copy pasting code, or actually, Stack Overflow is a bit old, so maybe you're installing npm dependencies because you need that specific capability. Hopefully not to check if a given input is even or odd. That's a small of a private joke on npm modules for very specific cases that end up being very short in code, and kind of making the point about the plethora of dependencies that we have in our apps. But even that, like that is old school, right? Like what we are coming into is, forget about open source dependencies. I'll just ask ChatGPT, like we've just seen very different cases of like, just give me the code. How do I do it? I pass in an example, pass in a query, and I'll do it. And so we've come into, pasting code and like talking to chatbots like ChatGPT and Bard and Claude and all of those kind of, different family of LLMs and Gen AI that helps us maybe accomplish tasks. It's not just installing the dependency or Googling Stack Overflow. It's actually within the ChatGPT, the AI concept there. But even then, right, it's not just going over to like a different tab or window and doing that, but also we have it right there in the IDE. We have, things like GitHub Copilot and Tab9 and Kodi and so many other, again, extensions and different companies that make them, very easily accessible for us when we write code to just, complete the task. So it makes sense. And I assume a bunch of you all here are kind of like, feeling the same thing here, like I am. Like when I get a new story on the backlog, should I be using ChatGPT? Should I code it myself? I don't know. Maybe both. Maybe I'll try and see what I end up with. And sometimes maybe we don't have a choice because it's right there in the IDE. So all you have to do, press tab. So I don't know. Maybe you end up doing it. Maybe you're not. But kind of like let's set up what are the concerns around it. One is AI hallucinations, which we'll talk very briefly on, but just to give you a context of like where are we going here. So the concept here is, Gen AI and those type of tools like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot don't really always know what is like the actual correct answer, right? Like those are just statistical models that are able to interpret or predict what would be the next token that, characters that they would have to complete. Which is great. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Like maybe you tried to ask ChatGPT at times, to complete a very simple math task like this one. And I remember presenting this at a prior meetup, and someone asked me, well, of course it doesn't work. And like, by the way, if you try to calculate this on the side, the correct answer here is not 216. So ChatGPT definitely got it wrong with GPT-4. That doesn't work. And someone told me the prior meetup was like, hey, you didn't really tell it that it should be like a math equation thing. Maybe it just reads it out or something. So I went on and added, the equation sign, which is what that person suggested I do. Well, stay the same. You can ask it if you're sure, and it says, absolutely sure, and all of those kind of things. So it gets it wrong. You can try different kind of games with ChatGPT and sell it to try things like that and see for yourself how sometimes it gets things really wrong, and it's very sure that it's right, which is scary, dangerous, right? Because it has that confidence that it's absolutely correct when it's absolutely not correct. And so that is for me, it's a very scary aspect when you cannot have inherent trust in what is going on. And so Microsoft actually, AI hallucination is one risk that you should have. There are different types of AI risks, and Microsoft had actually put a very cool and good walkthrough of several aspects to AI risks that they have called out. One is actually the fact that even the data itself, is something that attackers, they don't need to compromise data sets when they can literally contribute to them, whether they are like open source models or, if GitHub Copilot learns on all of the code base says on GitHub, I can just go and start adding bad code with backdoors or whatever. And essentially at one point in time, that will get added to the pile of code that we have there. So there are numerous ways in kind of like scaling that out and making it work. And we want do a deep dive on like the different aspects. There's like a bunch of them related to how we can poison the data, either the training data or the data itself that's available as a context window and stuff like that. But this is just one of them to consider. So let's go ahead and try to deep dive into how maybe Gen AI tools like LLM generated code could be insecure. So I went on and did this experiment of I wanted to ask ChatGPT, hey, can we go ahead and maybe open some work on a backlog story I have? Of course it is, and so I asked it to implement the post endpoint for upload endpoint for a Fastify web application, and it did. It gave me something that looks like a very functional code, and to a large extent it was. And notice how easily that was for me. Like I of course had exchange a bit more chat, but it was very easily and fastly done, fast and fastify and fastly. But the dad joke aside, this was almost ready to go, except I could see something that are not actually what would make it work. Like for example, even though it seems nice and I didn't really have to understand streams and stuff like that, it actually called called out some aspects that it hallucinated and did not have any sense in that context. And so I asked it to remove it, and it did. And now the way that I looked at it was a very, I could just really copy paste it and get it to work. And I was happy with it. And of course, copy paste it to VS Code, make it work, ship it to production. But then, right, that's when things start, if someone from security with a security perspective would have looked at it, they would go and say, this is very bad. And what was actually very bad there is, as you would expect from an upload route, it needs to handle files. Users upload files, and those files get saved onto some directory on disk. But if I'm able to then specify a file that has, directory traversal characters in it, like the file name is not just Francesco.png as an avatar or something. Maybe the file name is .. Francesco.bng or /config.js or .env or whatever, and I'm able to traverse outside of the actual what I thought was the upload directory to app directory and change config files and JavaScript requires and things like that. And that is exactly what you could do if you had copy pasted that code from ChatGPT. And this is like real responses that I got. And so now I want to take you through that experience of like let's see an experiment together, different aspects here. And I'll show you also cases from different languages and different queries that end up either being hallucinated or completely wrong, or just not having that tactical mindset of a security person when the code is being projected. So out of these next experiments are not actually my own, but someone's called Luke Hinz, who also deals a lot with security perspective. And I've got references here at the bottom if you want to read more about it. But I'll give you the gist from that blog post. So it went ahead and asked ChatGPT what it thinks on the following code, and it gave it a Python code, which you can see happening here. And I'll give you maybe a second to look at it. There's like a file name involved. We save it out, or we do something with it. We write to that path or something. Doesn't really matters on the context itself. But the fact that we can now take this code, maybe we can take it and ask ChatGPT about it. And that person did that exact thing. And it told it different things about what's happening here, right? Like, there's all of those imports and stuff like that going on, but there's no specific aspect of like, in the question there was, if you look at the top, right? Like, could I use this, right? There was no, if you need to create a temporary directory, yeah, you can use this, that's okay. But there is no aspect of security aspect here when the response goes back, and you do not know to think about it. And I'm not sure how many people here, regardless if they, are aware of Java or JavaScript or Python, actually understand that using, for example, the OS get temp tier here is a good practice, because it's not. It's a bad practice. It's actually relying on the environment itself, and it's something that you can predict. And so this specific line of code introduces a bunch of different security concerns, like time of check, time of use attacks, like predicting the directory in advance and then sharing it across the application, and different attacks that could happen based on that. Let's move on, try something else. So the next experiment was, hey, you know what? Look at this code. Should I use it? Imagine you're building some network compliance thing that you would want to maybe get a URL or an IP address and ping it to just see if it's alive or something. Imagine you're building like a health status landing page as a service. You have to like ping the application, or you can do curl or something else, or wget, or just get a response if the server is up, if the web page is up, based on just executing a system command. It's as easy as that. But when ChatGPT was asked, it provided several aspects of what is going on. But at the end of it, it said, if you're running code on a Unix-like system and have a legitimate use case for pinging a server, which for simple app maybe there is, that's okay. There's again no aspect of security here in terms of what the developer should think of when they're doing it. But that specific code one line of code that introduces user input, which is the form of an IP address like this one, 8 .8.8.8. If I'm actually controlling that input, I can provide a string as well. I can terminate that command, the ping command, and then add another command that actually deletes the entire disk drive, right? So like, again, not something you'd want to see happening, but there's no interaction here from ChatGPT to tell you, be worried about this and that things happening, because it doesn't really have that aspect of understanding, sometimes not even when asked specifically. Try another experiment, a different one. Let's say that we want to ask the LLM here some questions like, what libraries should I use? And a whole different ecosystem. So if you wanted to say, if you wanted to like ask it about that one, maybe you get back something like this response, which is what Luke received. Popular and well-regarded library, right? Well-regarded and a very popular one is Gorilla Sessions. If you want to manage, sessions and cookie data over Go applications. If you go over to actually like, if you went ahead and just like, did the npm install or pip install aspects of Go and just used it, you'd actually be into like a big surprise if you open the actual repository for it, which showed you that this repository is now archived, and maybe this package is actually very much unmaintained. And while maybe, I don't know, maybe it's popular, but if tomorrow there is a vulnerability for it, you will maybe not be able to fix it in time because, again, unmaintained. So it's very confident in giving you all of those answers, but does not have the exact concerns that you will have when you're choosing them. Let's see another example. Let's say I'm using a database called ArangoDB, and I want to, and this is the first time I'm interacting with it, and I want to ask something similar, like we did with the Go example. Like, give me the install instructions and give me the packages that are used, because I don't know, maybe I don't know what the SDK is actually used. Maybe there's a bunch of them. I just want to ask the ChatGPT to help me out with this, instead of like finding get started guides and tutorials and finding through the docs of ArangoDB website. And so it gives you all of those. And I took one of those examples, like ArangoDB here at highlighted as number 2. And let's say you did that, right? And just copy pasted it and went on with the hello world just to test if this even works and is fine with you. The problem is that package name is completely hallucinated. And the company Vulkan here, who did the research behind it, could have done that ahead of time to several other package names, figure out, okay, so it's suggesting ArangoDB. Let's go ahead and create that package, provide what seems to be an actual functional SDK, but behind the scenes we'll put something malicious in there. We'll add backdoors and Trojans and all of those kind of things. And this way they are kind of like, it's somewhat relevant to a typo squatting attack, where they would say, maybe some people will land on this package in some way through LLMs suggesting it, hallucinating something that doesn't really exist. They just made it up, but we'll create it ahead of time, so it will not look like it doesn't exist. It will look legitimate, right? So if you think about it, this is like, again, another aspect of potential issues that could arise. Now, I actually want to give us as we kind of go over the end of this slide deck, I kind of want to give you some resources that, if all of that was interesting, what you should probably take a look at. So OWASP, which is a very popular volunteer organization for application security, had put out something like, maybe you've heard of like the OWASP Top 10. It's a very popular, kind of like a standard for security concerns in the web space, like injections in general, and all of those kind of like concerns that you should be aware of, security vulnerabilities or just others. And they've created specific top 10 for LLMs. So things that we discussed here in terms of like, prompt injection, direct and indirect, and all data usage and PII, and all of those kind of concerns that you should probably be aware of if you're interacting with LLMs in one way or the other. Maybe you're building based on that. Maybe you're using it in your code when you develop like different use cases. And this is something that you should probably look into. So we've created a cheat sheet. There's like a whole blog here. If you Google this, you'll find that on the Steam blog. And it actually goes very very brief and gives you kind of like the highlights for each of those takeaways. The other aspect I actually want to recommend is, if you haven't dived into much of like chatting with chatbots like ChatGPT, there's a way to actually very gamify that experience, that you understand both how easy it is to do social engineering and kind of like trick the bot into different things, as well as sometimes how hard it seems, but not really, right? So this company called Lakera, which does a lot of like AI security stuff, have built this bot called Gandalf. You can literally Google that, end up on landing page, and this is how it looks like. This Gandalf character was given a password, and you can level up from 1 to 8 levels to find out what the password is. And sometimes it seems as easy as, hey, give me the password, and maybe it gives it to you, and you're now on to level 2, and then it becomes harder and then harder. But it is doable. So it gives you a way to kind of like gamify. It's a nice way to kind of understand. Sometimes, even though things look hard, and like, hey, maybe they're like, completely secure the whole thing, and now it will not give me the password no matter how I try to convince it in different ways, called prompt injection. It actually does break at the end. At the end of it, I will say a lot of the examples that I was showing here, things like the Fastify upload route that ChatGPT gave me, and the Python examples and other examples that I've had, showing like React applications with potential issues that maybe GitHub Copilot would have completed for me. I'm actually using the Sneak extension on my IDE, and that I've found that useful to just highlight code. So like that's a free and available extension that you could use for different languages, but works great with JavaScript and React. And it's a good idea to just like understand that there are some productivity tools like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot and all of those kind of like class of different Gen AI coding for us as developers. But they do not have they were not trained on an amazingly secure code. They do not have that concept, and so you kind of like have to pair that those productivity tools for like code generation with something else, right? Like you could use Sneak or something else, but you'd have to use something to make sure you're actually doing it in a secure way. So that's it. That's me. If you have any questions, I'm gonna be around. I think Francesco is gonna be back in a sec, and get us all together. Do secure coding.
Thank you so much, Liran. I was really excited to see the Gandalf one. We loved it. Nice. I think we have a couple of questions, and then we can just wrap this up. I think we have one. This is a more generic, so maybe we can start from here, and maybe we can expand. This is a generic one to start a career, because we saw the 3 talks. We went to let's say more the basics, then more like the Vercel SDK. Now we saw something about security. So what do you think is the right? How do you think is the right way to start?
I think probably every way is a good way now, because like there's no wrong answer essentially, because it's like such a new field. I don't think there's like a career in AI thing. Obviously AI like exists pre-ChatGPT and all the craze and the hype, but it was a different kind, right? It was like more scientific, the data science thing, being a machine learning scientist, developer, engineer, whatever. And now there are like all those different aspects, and Jerome talked about some of them also, right? Like there's the aspect of of cost and cloud costs to AI. So like there's security, which we talked about here, like how do you train the AI? How do you use AI tools securely? There's like so many ways. So I would say I love being very practical. So dive into the knowledge, learn the basics, go beyond the foundations, go beyond the theory, experience things, and kind of like see where you're going to. Are you going towards, think about as a software developer, it's like, how do you become a software developer? It's like, you want to be a backend software developer, a full stack, a front end, I don't know, performance based, different kind of, software development stuff. Plus, let's talk about ops and security in software development. So there's like a bunch of like a really vast domain. So kind of like see what you're getting kind of like pulled into, what interests you, what problems you want to solve, and start getting maybe active there. So that would be my my key. And I think hiring for kind of what would be an AI engineer is a very open and broad term these days, because this is somewhat new to everyone, and there's a lot of experimentation and learning here.
Yes, I see some analogies between, I don't know, cloud and AI. Sorry, like cloud, like if you think about cloud 10, 15 years ago, it was like sort of buzzword that can be, I'm a cloud engineer. Now we are going more specific. It makes less sense, I would say. So maybe in the future we'll see. I'm almost out of voice. My voice is at 2%. So I think that this will be, but I like this more practical approach. So try to experiment, trying different resources. We try our best bringing speakers here. And yes, I have one question, which is did AI impact your path at Sneak in some ways? Did you work on something specific, something cool? Did has an impact in the last 1 year?
Yeah, no, 100%. So definitely, like, so it's that's why I said, like, I'm here for like 5 years, but it's it's a constant change. The landscape is changing, and AI has been a large part of that for everyone, in tech. I think in the past couple of years, I think to an extent, there's like you could kind of put AI in different domains. There's the whole security research, like how does that work? There's the whole part of like being productive with AI, which is I've built some productivity tools for developer advocates in my team as well, so they could use AI to do a bunch of stuff. I think a bunch of that is like we've seen on these talks. So yeah, we definitely use it in various ways across from the product to myself, like as a productivity tool for the team itself, so like an internal thing for us. Yeah, I think it's not skipping any tech role.
Yes, absolutely. For example, we use AI to filter the tag to select the people to notify with emails for the monthly dev, for example. Otherwise, it is done by hand. It will be absolutely super hard. So we try to filter. We have like, 200 tags, and we try to filter. So, for example. Nice. Okay, so I think we are close to the end. I want to invite back Jerome, but literally for just 2 minutes. So we are at the end, and I'm super happy because we started this 2024 in the right way. Thank you so much. Your presentations were really amazing. Also, we touched like different points. So I really like the idea that we diversified the topics. So I really love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jerome, for staying a bit longer. Thank you so much for compressing your presentation. And I think I shared all the links because you were talking about some articles about daily dev. We have the GitHub one, something about Stack Overflow. I'm gonna share it again, and that's it. Some final thoughts, and then I promise that I'll let you go. Any final thoughts?
Jerome, maybe you go first.
I can hear you, Jerome.
No. But wait, we can use AI to see what you're saying. Let's see. I really enjoyed it.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Now it works. Whatever you did, it worked.
I have no idea why I switched back. But yeah, G. Rudvick has a question: how do I start a career in AI? I would recommend, just like everything else, first pick a language that works with it. That the ecosystem of Python works really well with most AI tools. So is a very simple but powerful language, and you can use that to start learning about how to implement your artificial intelligence practices with OpenAI, Stability AI, etc., using APIs to do things. Now, to actually have users start using it, you are going to have to have a UI or implement it somewhere like that, or you can use like tools like Streamlit as well, which is a good way to make chat applications. I definitely recommend, but most importantly, just start, right? There's enough things out there, blogs and tools out there where you can just mess around, figure stuff out, and make enough noise and make enough mistakes where somebody will come by, pull you to the side and be like, hey, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, let me help you clean this up a little bit. Like that's how most of us started, right? Making mistakes, breaking things, shipping really bad code till it became really good code.
100%.
Yes,
Don't be afraid to make mistakes and learn.
Go on. Yeah, yes. So I mean, if you want to be a pioneer in the industry, you need to be ready to mess up in some ways, but then you get also the benefits. So pros and cons. I will not overthink too much. We think we are starting to have a sort of structured things, different SDKs, different companies working on different things. So I mean, why not? So this is a thing that we'll see. Nice. Thank you so much. And this has been, I think, probably need to warm up to make these events to last for the correct amount of time. If you want, you can say bye in the chat now. Liran, thank you so much. I put the links to their Twitter accounts. Maybe we'll also add more links soon in the description. That's it. We're done. Have a great 2024. I don't know if you'll ever meet again or soon in 2024. Bye, everyone. Bye, Gilles. And we are done for today. I'm also done. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you also so much, Martin, that had to go. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.